Alex Vlasic has signed a massive extension with the Chicago Blackhawks, and the move that we knew was going to happen, not sure when, but it finally has, and this is exactly what the Blackhawks needed to commence their master plan with Kyle Davidson. So we're going to be talking about this extension here, and how this master plan has started in this video. Before we get into all of this, though, we noticed that 78% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to get all of your Chicago Blackhawks news, and just news from around the NHL in this offseason, you're in the right spot. Make sure to hit the sub button, join us here along this offseason, and we cover all of some very good news and some very interesting things heading towards this draft. But let's get straight into it. This is an absolutely huge extension for Alex Vlasic, one where it benefits him extremely as well as helps the Blackhawks out in their upcoming push to becoming a better team next season. And this is what the extension is right here. It's a 6-year by $4.6 million deal. And here's a little description from Jay Fresh. Alex Vlasic is a young defenseman who puts up exceptional results in tough matchup minutes on an awful team. Super active in his own zone, killed penalties, and showed some flashes of offense this season as well. So, Noah, what do you think about Alex Vlasic's extension here, as well as his game in general? You know, he's a very good young defenseman, playing top-line minutes, playing 20 minutes on ice per game on the first pairing with Seth Jones. So what do you think about him?
I'm an absolute huge fan. I mean, you know, we've been pumping Alex Vlasic's tires all season. I thought he was the best player on the Blackhawks, not named Connor Bedard, to be completely honest with you. You know, Jay Fresh talked about it a little bit in his tweet. You know, some of the matchups, he was, 20 minutes a night. I thought he was one of the best defensemen. So, I mean, I kind of think this is a little bit of a steal. Obviously, locking him up for, I guess that's considered long-term, 6 years. At 4.6, obviously, we know the cap's going up. And, you know, a big thing that for me was, obviously, the Blackhawks were, like, historically bad this year, right? We all know that. So, I mean, and, like, not playing 97 games as well, you got to assume they're going to be better next season. And you got to assume that they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to get better and better and better. And where it's such a small sample size for Alex Vlasic, you kind of have to assume that he's going to get better as well. So paying a guy 4.6 who's going to be a solid two-way guy, you know, your first-line pairing, I'm backing up the Brinks truck for him, 100%.
Yeah, no, it is a steal. That's no doubt. I think that this contract should be worth a lot more when the cap goes up. The year that Alex Vlasic will have next year, assuming he continues his hot streak, which he has just over his NHL career in that very small sample size, like you said. But his chart here just shows a lot, too. 94% even strength defense with an 88% projected WAR, and even not being an offensive guy, or about not being known as an offensive guy, 51% offense is very good for a guy like Alex Vlasic, who is only 23. He's playing on, it says time on ice, but he's a first pairing defenseman instead of second pairing, and for what he's playing with Seth Jones, who we know has made some mistakes so far, or, well, I should say this season, not so far this season, this whole season, he's really filling some big shoes there, being a first-line player, getting 21 minutes on ice per game as a 23-year-old on such a horrible team. And you can see, his plus-minus there was -4. That's really good for a guy, on such a bad team playing top-line minutes. Being -4, even though the Blackhawks have lost some horrible games, that's really good, and this really does show a lot for a guy like him going into this new Blackhawks from what we might see. And this is really the first steps of Kyle Davidson's master plan, which we are going to talk about here. It has begun. You know, Kyle Davidson recently came out in a few interviews saying that they don't want to be as bad as they were last year. They're going to be adding this offseason, and their goal is to just keep on going up and up and up every year. Now, he has mentioned they're not going to be a playoff team just yet. Every Blackhawks fan knows that, and Kyle Davidson was not scared to say that this team is not going to be a playoff team. But this is what he had to say in the interview. He says, "We want to take the next step here and progress. We don't want to finish where we finished this year moving forward. That's not what we're looking to do anymore. It's something we're going to be cautious of moving forward. Hopefully we can see a little more success and some positive steps in the standings and on the ice here moving forward." And this really does say a lot from Kyle Davidson, because he's been very honest with us so far, and in every aspect of everything. He acknowledged that this is not going to be fun for the Blackhawks, what we've seen last year and the season before, but we're going to start moving forward now. And he's been very frank with everybody here, acknowledging everything. And now that he's begun to make these signings, acknowledging that they're going to have to pay Connor Bedard in a few years, making these signings with guys like Nick Foligno because of the lack of veterans that this team has, he's been very, very good as a GM so far. And this move, to me, shows that this is really what he's looking for. This is exactly the start that he's been looking for. And making the signing, knowing that they wanted to sign him long-term, didn't know how much they were going to pay him, and paying him a very good price, you can't complain about this as a Blackhawks fan, nor even just a fan of the NHL or an NHL. I guess you could say NHL casual. I don't mean a casual like that, but just a casual for other teams. And I'm very excited to see what he has to pull up his sleeve here in this offseason. So, Noah, what do you think about this plan so far? I know we spoke about the extension here for Alex Vlasic, but what kind of offseason do you think Kyle Davidson is going to have here?
Well, that's really, really tough. Obviously they're you want them to kind of load up on young players and build around those guys, but also like they have guys like Nick Foligno and some of the older guys. Taylor Hall's going to be back, hopefully healthy next season, right? I mean, so I guess maybe they could go out and sign, a sort of grizzled veteran to kind of come in and I guess help the rebuild, I guess, if that's the right mindset. I mean, we talked about guys like Tyler Bertuzzi, and I mean, the free agent market this year is really, really interesting. We have guys like Chandler Stevenson, Jonathan Marchessault, and obviously the Blackhawks kind of have a little bit of money that they could sort of throw it around there. But, I mean, you bring those guys in and you help guys like Connor Bedard, you have to assume they're going to draft either a Macklin Celebrini, and Ivan Demidov, Caden Lindstrom, maybe a defenseman. So, I mean, I'm kind of getting behind, I guess, bringing in an older guy. I guess, I mean, we've seen how well Nick Foligno did this year as well, and obviously Taylor Hall when he was healthy. So I'm going to go with that route, I think, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's many options they can use. There's not any lack of decision-making here. They kind of have an open pile that they can work with here. But this is what Kyle Davidson also continued with about this offseason. He says, are we going to bring in some new players? I think that's likely. Yeah, there's going to be turnover. Who's available? What can you get? There's yet to be determined. There's a lot more that goes into this than just wanting certain players or wanting types of players. It got to go fit short, long-term. It got to fit contractual. It has to make sense. And that's really the plan that Kyle Davidson has mentioned this whole time. Is he's mentioned that they want to get players who are not going to interfere with Connor Bedard's contract year, knowing that they're going to have to pay him a lot of money. They're not going to try and get, older players that are going to be signing long-term. They're looking for older players like Nick Foligno in a Nick Foligno type deal where they have the money over these next few seasons to work with, pay them for these next 2 seasons, 1 or 2 seasons at a higher than normal contract that those players would earn at that point. And it's really suiting their developmental scale going into the rest of this offseason and the rest of their plan that they have over until they become a top-tier playoff team, a top-tier NHL team once again. And I honestly think, I'm going to make a bold assumption here, that is a lot sooner than we may think. The Blackhawks seem really ready. They have a lot of interior talent that they may be able to trade, that they may be able to develop into something else and whatnot. And then, really, they're not going to be looking too much on the exterior for things that they may need just yet. But this Blackhawks team, I think, is going to take a really big step up next year with everything they have, whoever they add and whatnot. Even if it's majority of the same team, this team still could be... Yeah, this team could be really, really good next year. And it's kind of a bold prediction, but I think it's safe to say that I'm okay with saying this, rather than them being horrible again next year. But it's only a matter of time until we see another Kyle Davidson deal fitting into this scheme, the plan that he has for this team heading into the offseason. So if you want to check out what this team is going to be doing in this offseason, make sure to hit the sub button. We'll be keeping you guys updated with everything from the draft, free agency, as well as just around the NHL when the news starts to die down a bit. But that's what we got here in this video. Noah, you got any final thoughts on this Alex Vlasic extension?
It's awesome. I'm a huge fan. I see a lot of comparisons with Nick Jolmerson, who's a pretty good stay-at-home defenseman for the Blackhawks. So hopefully he can be as good as him. So yeah,
it's a fantastic deal. Very big fan of it, and this is only the beginning for Kyle Davidson. But that's all we got here. Like I said, make sure to hit the sub button if you do want to stay up to date with all the Blackhawks news. But we're signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.